I'm Jonathan Williams, along with our guest. Excuse me, you're not a guest. You're the
I'm the
co-creator.
co-host,
You are the co-host, Joseph.
Joseph Decker.
Man, that was a little bit of a mix-up there. I apologize, Joseph. No disrespect
Cool.
intended. Tell me what's going on with you today.
Wildcat Alley's biggest blooper.
Yeah. We started early with the bloopers. That's
Oh.
all right, though. That's all right. Listen, our show is brought to you by, first of all, welcome aboard to our new show sponsor. I appreciate them coming on board. Morris Promo Design Tees. Joseph has got some exciting news to share about that here in just a little bit. But Morris Promo Division offers any type of promotional product item that can be logoed: pins, bags, drinkware, paper products, trade show setup, business cards, etc. And the Design Tee Division offers custom apparel and hats, direct garment printing, embroidery, direct to film and screen printing, online stores, and so much more. Joseph, tell us about the recent deal you just signed with that company.
Yeah, so I took the shirts we were making when we did the booth in the Larry Starnes and kind of did a partnership with the MPDT. I highly recommend them. They're great. They provide you a website. They're kind of like a shoulder to lean on because they're always there to help you out. They give me loads of advice on what to do, how to make shirts, how they can be better. And going through them is going to make it a lot more accessible for people to buy the merchandise now. We have the website almost 100% finished and fixed. So soon you'll be able to go on there, buy a shirt, still the $20 price tag. And I think it's going to be really cool. It's going to be an easier way for people to access them. And we're also about to drop, which soon, the Alex Jane Massey shirts. The design is almost finished. So that will be a big time thing.
That's exciting. We're going to have the third, and I want to make clear to everyone, Joseph is solely the content creator and the sole owner of the t-shirt business, and he's done a great job with that. We helped connect him to get started, but he's Jessica Hines and her company came forward and offered to work with him. He gladly accepted. I think it's a great partnership. They offer a great service. We're excited to see the next drop. Our technology sponsor is Braden's Blessings and Lake Forest Recruiting. Lake Forest Recruiting is owned by Jay and Allison Holland, and Braden's Blessings has been and Lake Forest Recruiting has been sponsoring us from the beginning. And Braden's Blessings is a local charity that it honors the life of Braden Combs, who tragically passed away back in 2019. I say this every week because I don't want anyone to ever forget what happened. But Braden tragically left us suddenly in 2019. I will always remember that day, but his family's done a great job of taking this charity and doing some good to keep his name alive. And I appreciate that. If you want to help them out with their current prom fundraiser, then I can get you connected with them. Just feel free to message us. Our text line sponsors, Kevin Alexander, EC Clerk. You can chat and drop messages on the text line for our YouTube, our Facebook, and our Twitter. And our guests are brought to you by Rafferty's, Scott Lindsay, and CNA Plumbing. Tell us about CNA Plumbing, Joseph.
Yeah, so CNA Plumbing covers just about everything, They work with tanks, they work with plumbing, everything. They're the name, And they're one of our sponsors. They're going to be sponsoring our guests for today. Let me just go ahead and let people know. We have Shannon Weaver and we have Jeremy Wallman, two great guests. I think it's going to be a really, really fun show. And CNA, thank you for sponsoring us, and they are sponsoring our guests, like I said. So you'll hear them a few times today.
We appreciate them doing that. And I want to say just a little bit about both guests. We appreciate Coach Shannon Weaver, who went to school at Emmons County High School, had an excellent coaching career at University of West Georgia, and then was hired at Auburn University under the legendary Cliff Ellis, ascended to the associate head coach there. They had a great run. Shannon's always been a huge supporter of First of all, great basketball coach, great basketball person, always been a huge supporter of us in Edmonson County. And I look forward to getting to talk to him. And then Jeremy Wallman is my cousin. He's an entrepreneur. He's a diehard Louisville and athletics fan. He actually is the owner and operator of the Cardinal Sports Zone podcast. Does a great job with that. Does about 220,000 clicks or views a month. So that's pretty incredible. We really appreciate those guys coming on the show tonight. We're going to do things a little bit differently today. We're going to talk about the high school basketball Sweet 16. We're going to talk about the NCAA tournament, but we're also going to talk about the coaching search and what's going on with college and even high school athletics, the way the portals change things, NIL, and then what it is to hire a coach now. It's so things are so different. Of course, there's now an opening at University of Michigan, so there's going to be some pretty heavy competition for Dusty Ray's services, and I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see what happens with this coaching search. So with that, Joseph, let's bring Coach Weavers on here. Let's welcome him to the show. Coach Weaver, how are you today? Can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I hear you loud and clear. I want to introduce you to Joseph Decker. He's a sophomore student here at Edmonson County High School. He's a sports enthusiast, a guy you would love. He loves basketball. And I just want you to know, of course, I've known you a long time. It's an honor to have you on, that you take the time to come on the show and talk with us tonight.
No, this is fun. I appreciate it. I like a young man like Joseph spend this time on something productive like this. You knew I'd like that when you said. Now one thing I noticed y'all said y'all got some sponsors for the guests. Does that mean pay?
Absolutely. There's going to be a large. I mean, this has become extremely lucrative, as you can tell by our setup.
Is this a milkshake? What was formerly Slugs, and now?
Yeah, we're going to meet at Birdie's for maybe a creative content meeting before too long, and milkshakes are on us. How's that sound?
I'm excited. That's good. That's great pay. But no, I'm glad to be here. I just literally just walked in the tournament in the door from the SEC tournament. Been there all weekend, and a lot of buzz about a lot of things. So this should be fun to talk this over.
We'll get to the NCAA tournament in a minute. I'm curious. I want to jump right to college basketball in the coaching world, which you've been out a few years, but you know a lot about this and how it works. Tell everyone how it works when a university begins to vet candidates. It's things
Louisville's known. Yeah, Louisville's known for a while. There's a big difference between if your coach leaves or you're known. Louisville's, they've known. Now, if Kenny Payne had wanted enough to stay, they don't have to do it. But the good ADs, they have a list. They keep a list. They stay in those contacts, and that should be working all the time. Now, these are the good ones, and not all of them are great. But the good ADs, they have a list in their drawer, and when something happens, let's go down the list. So I think, in general, we've got a few significant, premier openings. Ohio State filled theirs. You got Michigan. You got Louisville, and this could trigger a couple more. Louisville and Michigan are involved with a couple of guys I think that could open up other significant jobs. But one of the difficult things is you really can't talk to the coach until he's done playing. So, like if you're Josh Hurd at Louisville, you're having to talk to their agent. And if any agents are listening, I'm going to apologize now. But, they've been known to not necessarily tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. They will angle for their guy. They will play one school against the other, and that's hard. So, but you don't go crazy. I think Josh Hurd has probably heard from many agents and many representatives. Sometimes other coaches or other ADs will call him back, but somebody will kind of be talking and saying he has interest, he doesn't have interest, he might have interest. Then when it gets up to time when that team's done playing, then it goes real fast. And then you start reaching out. You should have your candidates ranked. And you start reaching out and going down that list and, get something done really quick. Because now with this transfer portal, there's a window that is open and then closed. And if you drag your feet on hiring a coach, you're going to miss the transfer portal. And that's just instant death in this environment.
What do you think about what would your list be?
What's that?
I said, what would your list be?
For Louisville?
Sure.
Well, I mean, I think it's clear that Scott Drew, the last time Louisville was open, I think Scott Drew showed some interest. And I think that has happened again, not him directly, but through a third party. And so, the guy's won a conference or a national championship at Baylor. He's been consistent. He's very well thought of. You have to put him up top. And then it gets kind of interesting. Mick Cronin has had a big buyout, supposedly. But then now he shows up in the Michigan job. And just over the weekend, I heard that maybe there might be some doubt if that buyout has to be paid, because one of the interesting legal things, Jonathan, that may play out in court is, okay, you go to sign a contract with UCLA, and when you sign it, they're in the Pac-10, they're in the NCAA, and so some of those things are sort of embedded in there. Well, what if all of a sudden you aren't in the Pac-10, and maybe you aren't even in the NCAA going forward? So does that present loopholes to these things? So, but if a Mick Cronin wants to talk, you have to talk. I think there's kind of those two guys on the top end. Those guys come with buyouts. They're expensive. Probably Scott Drew will be $8 million a year with benefits, and a $10 million buyout and $8 million for, let's say 4 more years. That's $50 million. And that's a lot, even in Brownsville. That's a lot. And so I think what's interesting to me, and I'll be interested to hear your all's comments, and I think we're about to move into a different era, and Louisville may get to push into it that isn't really their choice, but it may be the smartest thing. And I'm not putting down coaches' contracts. I was for them. I'm a coach. My coach's friends would come, get me but I think maybe we're going to come to the end of the era of the big coaches' contracts with the big buyouts, because it's really moving more towards this pro sports model, right? Because the players are getting paid. Well,
right.
Who thinks Andy Reid is the highest paid employee at Kansas City Chiefs? And so I think as we move down this road towards paying these players, and that gets more and more cemented, no matter if there's caps or whatever, I think schools are going to start looking more at preserving money for paying players and looking at coaches and saying, okay, we couldn't get Scott Drew. Let's don't go try to buy out another high-power coach. Let's get a Dusty May from Florida Atlantic. His buyout's $1 million. They might have to pay him $4 million. So that's $5 million. 4 more years for a contract is $16 million. So that's about a $21 million. That's a $30 million savings over Scott Drew. And people say, well, is it coming from the same bucket? Well, yeah, it is. Because it's coming from your boosters. It's coming from your ticket sales. No matter whether directly or indirectly, it's coming from Louisville's coffers. And so, would you rather have Scott Drew and not $30 million or a Dusty May? I think if they get past those big ones, I think that's a name. I think Ohio State had big eyes with Dusty May, but they hired the assistant coach. And so I think I'm going to say Scott Drew, maybe Mick Cronin. I don't know if that's even real. And then on to a Dusty May or some more mid-major guys like that. And then after that, here's what's hard about Louisville. You can ask your cousin. It's really a one-person decision. It's Josh Hurd. He's bouncing things off of people, but he has all the power and authority. So it's hard he's not going to tell you what he thinks, but that would be my list right now. Maybe Scott Drew, Dusty May, and then who knows?
Coach Weaver, I want to ask you another question. You mentioned it while talking about that. What's your thoughts on the current era of college basketball and kind of how the transfer portal's kind of taken over in some ways?
Well, I mean, it's good for the players, and I'm always for that. It's good for them to get paid. I always thought it was kind of interesting. I mean, Jonathan was a good player, and a Kentucky, a Duke, a North Carolina, Indiana. The Power 10 say they'd sign 4 or 5 person classes every year. Well, that would mean they had the 13 best players times, let's say 10 schools on their roster at any one given time. And that's 130 of the best players. And guys really don't want to sit to transfer. I mean, they really hated it. I was at Division II for 4 years. We got a lot of good players because they were eligible immediately. They don't want to sit. NIL is not the biggest change that's happened. The transfer portal is the biggest change that's happened. And so while, you know, if you're a Kentucky fan, you probably don't love it because you can look around and see all this teams that are really good. Well, that's because if you go somewhere, and even Kentucky, you know, they signed 5 freshmen last year, and again, this probably hurt some feelings. I bet at least one of them transfers, even if they played a lot, even if they got what they. It's just when you open the door to free agency every year, it's sort of chaos. So I'm for them getting opportunities. I'm for them getting paid. We're going to have to create a model though with some guidelines. The pro sports do it. They have collective bargaining. They have, you know, caps, and they have, because here's the whole thing. It's supposed to be an equitable situation, you know, like when everybody had just one scholarship. And then you get guys and you try to do better with your guys and make them better and all this. But think about pro sports. If you had unlimited free agency every year, it's just a mess. So I don't hate that they get to transfer if they don't get to play, because let's go back to it. If you're one of the best players in Kentucky, I mean, in the country, look at what's happened to DJ Wagner. He was maybe like the number 1 rated high school recruit. Is that right? Yeah, and now he's sitting behind a guy that's just better. He's a good player. He's just better. Well, maybe Reed Shepherd goes and he improves and play. But also maybe you say, man, I'll go play for somebody that doesn't have 3 NBA draft picks in the class. And, you know, you like to see the best players play. So I think all in all, we're going to have to live with it, but we got to do better, and we got to get it a bit under control. You know, I'll tell you what I think happens. I'm probably wrong. I think they end up becoming employees. I think there'll be collective bargaining. I think you won't sign a scholarship. You'll sign a 2 or 3 or 4 year contract like a pro. If you want out of it, you got to pay. And, you know, that's where I think we're headed with this, because I don't think you can put this toothpaste back in the tube.
Okay. Well, how do you think, you know, a lot of people don't realize, you know, they'll say, like, for instance, University of Kentucky is a basketball school. Well, the revenue for football is so incredible that it overshadows even, you know, like University of Kentucky. How do you think the Michigan brand and the U of L brand, because they're kind of competing for, you know, coaches at this point, how do you think that whole broad thing plays into it?
Michigan can afford more. I mean, they're one of the – Louisville's a really good football program and striving to be better. Tom Jurich, they did everything they could. They built a big stadium. They're not Michigan. They're not 100,000 people. They're not in the Big Ten. The Big Ten, the SEC have the big contracts. See, here's something really interesting most people don't know. Football money goes straight to the schools. Okay, so their TV contracts, anything they got, it goes to the schools. Then the schools kick up to the conference and up to the NCAA. Most of the basketball money is the March Madness tournament contract. That goes to the NCAA, funds everything, and then flows down to the conferences and down to the schools. So not only is football a bigger revenue earner, their money starts at the campus and goes up. And so they get even more share of the power than they would if it was even. Their money comes to the campus. They did that. College football coach, when they said CFB and did all this, they did that. And a coach friend of mine said, I can't believe we got outsmarted by football coaches, but we did. And so now that model may be about to break, because we'll see what the Big Ten and the SEC say to do with you know, men's basketball and football. But football drives the bus in all of this. Men's basketball will then be, okay, what do we do? The first thing that's going to get solved is Power 5 football. You can believe that.
Yeah, so when going back to U of L, you know, they're a top 7. I really haven't seen any list where anybody says U of L is not a top 7 all-time basketball program. They're, you know, they're right outside Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke, UCLA, however you shake those out. Louisville's in that conversation. It is a good job. Really, it's probably a good time, you know, if you're somebody that feels they can turn something around. What do you think is going to happen? Of course, it seems like to me a pretty big stretch for Scott Drew to actually take the job. with all the things, involved. Then I'm hearing from a lot of people they do not want Mick Cronin, from fans. They don't want to watch
a lot of people don't want that. I mean, Mick's a controversial guy, and he's but he does bring something that Louisville fans should like, whether they like this or not. He brings the Pitino, gracing the deal back, and there's a lot of money, a lot of support that left Louisville when Pitino left and when Tom Jurich left. And so going back to the question, here's what's changed, guys, and this is tough to hear maybe, but when I was coaching at Auburn, we really weren't a better program than not only Louisville, but Western Kentucky. They had been to the NCAA tournament more times than us. They had been to, deeper. So was Xavier. So was Butler. Those Midwest schools, and we're just better because we were a basketball, program in a football league, and similar to Kentucky football. All right, they were. There was Kentucky basketball and then Kentucky football. They weren't Alabama, they weren't Auburn, they weren't Tennessee. But this NIL and these TV contracts have reshuffled the deck. Louisville is a historically top 7 program, no doubt. That's on their wins, that's on their national championships, that's on their Final Fours. But is that the way a coach will judge it now? Or will a coach say, how much NIL do they have? How much support in that area? I mean, isn't that the number one question? And so Louisville probably needs to pick it up a little bit on that. There's a bit of perception that they don't have what those football schools have. And I don't know, but it would make sense because I saw Auburn's gross revenue for last year was $194 million. Well, that's a lot of money. And so to cut out basketball, $4 or $5 million for NIL. And again, people say, well, that's outside. No, it's not, because all they do is say to their boosters, we're not going to hit you as hard on fundraising. You know where we need the help. Comes up in NIL. And Louisville just doesn't have that football piece to go with. The whole ACC doesn't. They're not there with the Big Ten, the SEC on football. And so that makes Louisville maybe a little different. It's a great program. I mean, it's a great fan base. It's an interesting place, and it's a good city to recruit to. I think they should get a great coach. But a few years ago, I mean, Bruce Pearl showed interest at a point, and Auburn just shut it down. I mean, within 5 days, they just shut it down. They went to him with the money and just shut it down. That couldn't have happened 20 years ago. Auburn couldn't have stopped Louisville from getting their basketball coach. They couldn't have stopped Baylor. Baylor couldn't have stopped them. So I think, if you look at Louisville versus Michigan, they got big football money. So I think that's tough today. But,
right.
With Braun back, need that support back. A lot of boosters left, need to get them back. Louisville's a good city, a lot of people with money that want Louisville to win. They just probably got a little work to do. And that, I don't want to make Louisville people upset, or I love Louisville. I'm for them. But, also the future of Louisville, what if the ACC falls apart? Might not be as crystal clear as a Michigan.
Right.
Just some facts.
Yeah, let's transition into the tournament, Coach. Have you had a chance to look over the bracket yet?
I did the ones everybody wanted to hear. I looked at Kentucky, and let me just give you what I think. Kentucky has a nice draw and route.
Agree.
The ones that worry me over there, I think even Duke. I think Duke's pretty good. I think they match up well with them. I think Kentucky, it's just this, and people probably disagree. They struggle with physicality. All right, who's giving them problems? South Carolina early in the year. Am I right that they've lost to Texas A&M twice?
Yes, sir.
Right, very physical. Florida, who was very physical. And that's not a big surprise because they've got all these freshmen. Well, I don't care who you are. You take a bunch of 18, 19-year-old freshmen, no matter how talented, and you put them up against a bunch of 21, 22, 23, sometimes 24-year-old transfers, that's a big difference. So the ones that scare me in their bracket, Texas A&M's in their bracket, right?
Texas Tech is. And, Texas A&M is as well. Yes.
Yeah, I think they'll get to the point of Wisconsin, Duke. I'd rather them play Duke probably. I think they win that game. But then they may be facing the winner of Houston and Texas A&M, and both those teams are really, really physical. They're really the makeup of what's caused Kentucky problems. It's kept the games, not look at Alabama. They're not physical. Auburn scored 117 on them or whatever it does.
Right.
Auburn's not that physical with the guards. They handled them. So I worry about that. I love their route. I think it's a great draw. My biggest one will be getting past the Houston, Texas A&M to go to the Final Four. But man, they are so talented. I don't think I've ever seen so much offensive talent on one team. Just that plays that way. The only time they don't play that way is somebody don't let them, and that's the concern about those two teams. I think they could win it all. I think when you see them up against a physical team, I don't know how physical Texas Tech is, but that's when you get worried. Overall, out of the tournament, I've watched all the SEC this year and a lot of Big East. Big East is great basketball, and man, I think Connecticut is really the best team.
They are.
Yeah.
They're just inside.
I mean,
they can shoot it. They've got athleticism, and that's a tough conference. I mean, that is a tough conference, and they really said they had a couple guys hurt, and they just did it. I mean, I would have a hard time not picking them if you only gave me one team. It's going to be really hard. However, they got a horrible bracket. I mean, they've got Iowa State, who's playing as good as anybody, Illinois, who's really good, Auburn. I don't like Alabama. Well, I'm Auburn, so I never like Alabama, but I just think they're not big enough, physical enough inside. But I don't really like them. But I think, you're looking at UConn, you say, I've got to beat probably Auburn in the winner of, Iowa State and Illinois to get to the Final Four. That's tough, but I wouldn't bet against them. After that, man, I really liked Tennessee, but now they've lost at home, lost the first round of the tournament. I think the other teams that are real threats, I'll still put Tennessee in it. North Carolina, clearly very good, even though they lost to a team that wasn't supposed to be in it until yesterday,
Right.
I think that I hadn't seen Arizona, but everybody says in. I think Creighton's a sneaky team. I watched them a lot this year. They can really score. They've got some size. I think if you look at kind of out of the pack, I love Marquette, but Tyler Kolek has been hurt. I went up there and watched them play St. John's, and he just took the game over. I mean, he's an NBA player, no doubt. So I don't know he's either about to come back or been out 3 weeks, but I think Creighton's an interesting one. I think, to win it, it's just going to be hard to get outside of Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina. I don't know about Virginia. I don't know about that. And I don't love Purdue. I think they're too dependent on Zach Edey. I've seen people double Zach Edey and cause him a lot of problems. They're not like Connecticut. They'll probably win it all, but I don't like Purdue. But Connecticut, I think they're the best team. I think they got a real bum draw.
Yeah. Coach, I got one last question for you. I really enjoyed all the information. Appreciate you taking the time to come on. As you know, this Wednesday, the boys Kentucky High School Basketball Sweet 16 tips off. Who do you have winning?
Well, it's hard to get outside of Great Crossing. Evangel, of course, everybody's seen, that's been a stir. But I think Lexington Catholic, Great Crossing were two of the best teams in the state. They'll be tough to beat. I love Will Unseld Warren Central, but, I don't think they had what they had last year, although Cade is a special player. I was there when Butler County beat Owensboro Catholic. Very interesting. They're really good. I mean, I'm in Edmonson County, and Jonathan, I didn't want to like them, but they're good. Ty Price is good. He's small. I don't know how that translates to the college level, but he's very good. He played more under control than I expect him to. Rice is great. They get a lot from Griffin. They get past Evangel. They kind of have the look of one of those old Mason County, how'd they get here? But not having ever been there hurts. I tell you what, Lyon County, everybody knows about Perry. Those other two players are really good.
They are.
Reddick and Shoulders. So I'll take Great Crossing with some Evangel. Trinity, I watched them in the 7th region tournament. Very, very physical. Really beat people up, but I don't think they're the basketball players that Evangel, I'll take Great Crossing in my trifecta. I'll take Lyon County. I think Evangel just stumbles. I just not having been there, and then maybe I'll take Butler County as a wild third. How about that?
Yeah, I've got the winner of the Final Four game between Great Crossing and Lyon County. The winner of that game winning it against Covington Catholic. But yeah, Evangel Christian's a tough one for Butler County as a draw. But luckily, all those kids are back next year. Coach, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you.
Hey man, I really love it. I'm a Evanston County and to my toes and love it. And glad you guys are doing this. And let's all have fun with the tournament.
All right, sounds good. See you, Coach.
Take care.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Bye.
That was Coach Weaver, Shannon Weaver, former Auburn assistant. I want to jump right to Cardinal Sports Zone main man, owner, operator, living legend in his own mind and in my mind as well, the one and only Jeremy Blessed 55 Wallman. Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. It's an honor to have you, buddy.
Well, thank you first off for saying that. I know it's Sunday and it's hard to tell a story on Sunday, but I want to make sure first and foremost that I'm tuned into the right show. This is the Wildcat Alley Sports Show, right? And nothing else.
It is.
Yes, sir.
Well,
okay. I'm looking at you, Joseph. I'm looking at you. Hey, I'm glad I finally get to be on here with you all, and I'm ready to talk and have a good time. I'm trying to look up the tournament bracket in case y'all try to get me tripped up on that, because I haven't looked at the brackets yet because my team's not in the tournament. So we're in the TBD region, the to be determined.
Let me ask you a question, Jeremy. I want to jump right to a question I have. Of course, Coach Weaver was on, coached at Auburn for several years. Why not Bruce Pearl?
Well, that's a great question. I didn't want to not really correct him, but we never offered Bruce Pearl the first time. Bruce Pearl contacted us just so that he could go back to Bruce Pearl's agent contacted us for the sole purpose, and this has been made known publicly, just so he could get a contract bump at Auburn.
He kind of alluded to that.
But he kind of made it sound, though, like he picked Auburn over us. No, there was no offer. Didn't pick Auburn over us. So, but I just wanted to say that I enjoyed it. I've enjoyed your all show, and I'm ready to feel the heat from the alley, man.
All right.
I like that.
So I since you corrected us on that, I do want to know why not Bruce Pearl, though. He's a great, great coach, man.
I don't think he has any. He's got it good. I mean, same reasons why like 98% of the people who have half of a brain would say Scott Drew's not coming to Louisville, because he has it good. He is basically the sports equivalent of our Lord and Savior down there in Auburn, Alabama, especially with them not doing as well in football the last decade as they did the prior decade. Basketball's really stepped it up. I'll give them their credit. The last 7, 8, 9, as Louisville has had a downfall, Auburn has had an uptick. I would have Bruce Pearl on my short list, but he's not even being looked at because I don't believe I believe his dedication to Auburn is so strong, but that also kind of lets me know that there is something there with Scott Drew, or he wouldn't be on the list either. But that's why I would love Bruce Pearl. Guys like Bruce Pearl, I would love for him to be in the mix. I would like Buzz Williams. I think a lot of Buzz Williams. I know Steve Rummage wants Bob Huggins here. That's an inside joke, not really. But yeah, I mean, I'd love Bruce Pearl, honestly.
So in your mind, it's still Scott Drew, Dusty May, and then maybe Cronin sneaking in, but the fan base really doesn't want that.
The fan base would rather have a colonoscopy than to have Mick Cronin hop up in the lead seat here at the University of Louisville. However, he's making a strong push. There are some doomsday scenarios here in Louisville where we feel like Scott Drew may turn us down. Dusty may go to Michigan, and then we are left with the human buyout, Mick Cronin. It's just not the caliber of These fans that were frustrated with Kenny thought they were going to push Kenny on out. They did. And bring in Scott Drew, Dusty May, Billy Donovan. Jay Wright's been in town helping out Josh Hurd. There's even been rumblings of, great dreams at night about Jay Wright coming to town and leading the team for a couple years while Josh finds the next guy. That's just hearsay, it's speculation. But Jerome Tang's been eliminated from the short list from what I've heard to Will Wade. Even though Will Wade is a phenomenal coach, he's got a lot of ties to Louisville that I was unaware of until conversations I've had last week involving some boosters. I talked to a couple people at my I work for myself, as you mentioned, but I also do a thing for the 502 Circle, which is the Louisville NIL Collective. It's called Louisville Live Streams. And every week, if you log onto the Rayvon Sports app, and they do this for the Kentucky guys. Actually, the Kentucky side of this is running way smoother than the Louisville side right now because the Louisville side's dealing with a lot of stuff behind the scenes, changing leadership as far as basketball is concerned. But if you're a Kentucky fan, please download the Rayvon Sports app. Exclusive interviews. They're going to be doing stuff with the Kentucky TBT team coming up this summer. It's going to be a great time on both sides. But the Louisville live streams, what we do is each episode, sometimes we do 2 a week. We grab some of the student athletes. We have them on. We ask them the viewers questions. I'm the moderator. It's a great time, and it doesn't cost anything. You download the app. The kids get paid NIL money for doing it because of the sponsors. And it's a good time. But just having conversations, I didn't mean to go off on a cheap advertisement for myself there, but I did, and it was good. So whatever. But I just from having conversations, man, I found out that Will Wade had a lot of ties to the city that I was unaware of. I know the show cause is the deal breaker there. And that's why, honestly, to me, if you were asking me, are you going to ask me that later who I would pick?
Yes.
Because if you had your format, I don't want to say it just yet. Anyway, I know I'll save my real answer for later, but my answer, if everything could work and nobody would get in trouble, I would absolutely have Jay Wright come coach for a couple years. Coach 1 year, actually. Come here to Louisville for 1 season, coach. Will Wade show calls will be up the next year. Bring him in, have everything fired up and rolling. Bring a couple of young recruiters on the staff. Yasir Redmond up at IU, great young recruiter. Nolan Smith, great young recruiter. Bring an old head like Rick Stansberry on staff, and you've got a ready-made top 25 team first season that would be able to utilize not only the money. We've already got $4 million in savings for NIL money for the next basketball coach. We
Thank
spent
you,
less than $1 million. I didn't hear you.
I said, thank you, Kenny.
Yeah, thanks. Well, not only that, Kenny he left like 1.7 million in the bank unused. We only used $1 million, and I think it showed on NIL this season. But we got a lot of guys that I hope. I mean, the portal opens tomorrow. I know a couple of guys that are going to hop in that are just trying to get their worth, get their value numbers to bring back and tell us, hey, we got offered this by Texas A&M. We got offered this by Arkansas. We want you to match that money. I know 2 guys that are going to hop in the portal tomorrow that are absolutely staying. I know a few that are leaving. But, yeah, we're going to have bunches of money. We got so much money. We got like $4 or $5 million in the NIL pool. Apparently, we're either going to spend 8.5 on Scott Drew, or we're going to give May or Cronin $4 or $5 million there and save some money. So the resources here are plentiful, bountiful. There's not a shortage. Thank God we aren't Michigan. I know he said something about Michigan earlier. Said we weren't Michigan because I would hate, like, the scores are the same on basketball or football. It's like 50-50 when they play in either sport. But no, I think the next coach is going to jump right into it. I will say a quick thank you to Kenny Payne for coming in and kind of being the Band-Aid to get us over. I didn't think he was going to be I knew there was a chance. I was like, he's either going to smooth this road over for the next coach, or he's going to come out gangbusters. He did the prior of the 2, and yeah, that's where we're sitting at right now with that.
Let me. I've got a question for you. There's a name. Go ahead, Joseph.
I just wanted to ask you this because I know. What do you think the real problem was with Kenny Payne? What do you think the problem with him? Why there was no success?
Okay, so first off, here's what I want to say. I want to publicly invite you all right here to come up after I get this. We're building a brand new studio here in my home. Here in about a month and a half, it's going to look really, really smooth and nice. And I want y'all to come up and do the show here with us live from the studio one Wednesday, maybe during the summer when we do Live with 55, which is our second show we just launched a couple of months ago. I'm extending the invitation for y'all to come up and do the show with us if you would like.
Thank you. Thank you. We accept.
I love that.
Oh, that was just to you, Jonathan. He comes too if you come up.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. I don't like Joseph as much as he likes tagging people on Twitter, but I like him a lot. What was the question again? Sorry, I had to get that joke in real quick. What was the question, Joseph?
What do you think the biggest problem?
Yeah. Here's what didn't work. Year one didn't work because Kenny didn't get the financial backing from his buddies and friends. He was allegedly promised, and that's something we were prepped on before he was named the coach. Nobody else wants the job right now with the violations about to, like, they really thought we were about to get the death penalty last year. That was not a myth. That was an actual. So nobody wanted the job. Kenny took the job out of the grace and kindness of his heart. Everything he said in his opening press conference was true. Said it was going to get worse before it got better. Please don't jump off the ship. Even though his ending press conference kind of, he said the exact same thing as the opening, except for he contradicted every single thing he said. We'll leave that at that. But that's why year one didn't work. He did not get the backing and the backup that he was promised. Year two, the reason why it didn't work is because he was so paranoid he was going to lose his job. He handcuffed assistants. He didn't let them do their job. I'm not going to get into any detail because the last thing I want to do is get any of my friends or colleagues or even the player. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, so I'll keep that hush hush. However, year two didn't work because about halfway through, Kenny thought he was losing his job for sure. And he turned heel on everybody, a wrestling term, which means went to the bad side. He turned heel on everybody and flamed his way on out of the job. I appreciate Kenny for year one. I really wish he hadn't done everybody that cared about him wrong the way he did in year two.
Jeremy, I want to ask you this. There's a name that I have not seen or heard during this whole time that I think is a really good coach. I think the question or the answer is probably going to be the same as Will, but why not Sean Miller? You know,
yeah,
3 years ago, he was the hottest coach in the country. You know, I mean, Arizona's rolling. He's got recruits everywhere. He did get in some trouble for things that are now legal. Why not? I mean, Sean Miller looks like to me like pretty close from a basketball standpoint, recruiting standpoint, a home run.
Yeah, I mean, I would take Sean Miller over Mick Cronin and Dusty May in a heartbeat, honestly. I just think
Me too.
The differences between him and Wade's under a current show cause. Yeah, they both got in trouble. Yeah, they both got punished, but Wade is still being punished. So that's the reason why I don't think we touch him with a 10-foot pole. Yeah, they're comparable in ways, but not comparable in other ways. Again, if Sean was under an active show cause, I'd say no way, Jose, to him as well. But I would not mind, honestly, Jonathan. I wouldn't mind. There's a couple of names I wouldn't mind that are floating out there. I'll see if you get to them or not, because I know Joseph was going to ask me my opinion on some of the coaches. But yeah, I wouldn't mind Sean Miller. I think he's a good X's and O's guy. I think, again, in this day and age, the NIL age, you can put together a staff that knows it in and out. Again, I reference Nolan from earlier when he was at Duke. He knew how much NIL was. He had access to NIL and was able to facilitate that. Here at Louisville, he didn't have access to that, so he wasn't able to do that. If you're allowed, I know it keeps sounding like I keep kicking Kenny while he's down, but those were just the facts. He didn't let anybody do NIL but himself. So it wasn't able to be used in that way. But I think you put Sean Miller and then put a couple those same guys. I'm gonna because I mean, first off, they're both my friends, but they're both really, really good at what they do. And why wouldn't you want the youngest, the best, the brightest? I mean, somebody's going to get all jokes aside, and again, I'm fully prefacing this with the fact that Nolan is my friend. Jonathan, I'm so glad you were able, even though it was a horrible basketball game, I was so excited to have you and your dad and Carrie in 3 generations of Williams basketball dominance in the Yum Center to see that horrible upside down bird poop of a basketball game. But afterwards, I was also very excited to introduce you to Sydney and Nolan and everybody. And
They were great.
yeah, and they really liked you too. So
That's saying something.
Yeah, absolutely, because you're really hard to like. No, you're hard to like, but easy to love. How about that? That's a little.
There
nice.
you go. That's so that warms my heart.
But
That was sweet.
Either it was that or gas. I don't know which one warmed your heart there. But no, all jokes aside, you put any young recruiters like him or Redmond from IU, he's a really good young recruiter, even though things just aren't adding up in Bloomington right now. I don't know what the deal is. There's a couple guys at DePaul, even, which is normally a trash bag program. Shout out to them. And Rutgers as well, that if you could Sean Miller could pull those guys in together, it would bring Louisville back instantly to that top 7 caliber program you speak of. By the way, shout out to Western Kentucky for joining the most 20, like they're it's like now the list is UCLA, Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, Connecticut, Syracuse, UConn, Louisville, and Western Kentucky in that list. So shout out to, I don't know, I think I probably added a couple too many extra teams. That would just be who I assume they were. But shout out to Western Kentucky representing. I know we got a lot of ties Western Kentucky wise, family wise, professionally.
Absolutely.
My guy Ben Souders, and then you all love Western Kentucky as well as you do. I like to call them the Smurf turds in Lexington. Excuse my language a little bit there, but there's room for all kinds of team love here. So, but yeah, that you put together a young, hungry coaching staff, which is why I still think it would work with Will Wade. You just don't let Will Wade recruit at all. You don't let him speak at press conferences. The first year, he's like the mystery guy in the Illuminati. You keeping him underneath the mask. You don't let him do anything. You let Nolan. You let all those guys do the work. And then he unveils himself like Vince McMahon did the one time. It's like, it's me. It's been me all along. Which I forgot I need to stop referencing Vince McMahon because he's not a good dude anymore. So
that don't mean you can't reference him. That doesn't mean everything he's ever said was wrong. He is coming out with the reason
I've won all these championships from WWEshop.com. So
that's exactly right. I just think Sean Miller's a name that it's surprising that it's not popped up. But if Coach Cal left today and they said Sean Miller was the next coach, Bruce Pearl was the next coach, I would be really excited about that. Will Wade, like you said, is not going to happen. He's 31-3 right now. He's probably going to win at least one game in the NCAA tournament. He will be a big-time college basketball coach 1 year from now.
Absolutely.
Which is unfortunate. And wherever he goes, he's going to win, and he's going to win big. And
I'll be honest,
that's
the main reason, Jonathan, why I was okay with the year 3 of Kenny Payne. I knew I was going to be in, and all you Louisville fans, please spam me in the comments. I know I'm asking for punishment, but for me, I was like, year 3 of Kenny means we can have the pick of the litter as far as college basketball coaches were concerned next year. You're only talking about a couple months he can't recruit then. If you hired him now, he could not recruit for 2 full, even though he's only got like 10 months left on the show cause. You would be out this recruiting cycle and the beginning of next recruiting cycle. So you'd be, in essence, missing 2 complete recruiting cycles. But that's why I was kind of okay if we kept Kenny for a 3rd year, because you could go right into Will. I know a lot of people love him. I know a lot of Louisville people love him. Like even today, all through the timeline. And in our group chats, we have a premium group chat for Cardinal Sports Zone. All you got to do is request to be in there. We put you in there. We just let people talk how they want to, about what they want to, and it's really, really fun. But all day long, I had to keep typing in caps. We are not getting Wade. I really want Wade. We are not getting Wade. I mean, they're just not listening because they know the alternative is Mick Cronin, and that's why I'm terrified to death that Scott Drew is not going to take the extra 3. No, actually, Scott Drew's base pay is like $3.4 million. We're offering him $8.5 million. That's our opening bid. I still think Josh Hurd makes him say no twice. So I don't think 8.5. If he's our coach It ain't going to be for 8-5. It's going to be for 9-5, 10. I can guarantee that. And to also touch on something a little bit that Shannon talked about earlier, I would love it if it was just Josh Hurd's decision. And in most places, the athletic department, it does rule. Here at Louisville, the Board of Trustees is going to have to approve of whatever Josh Hurd says. And that Board of Trustees, I don't know how much y'all followed that whole saga, but our governor at the time, Matt Bevin, took all of the Louisville people off of the Board of Trustees. And I know this sounds fannish. I know it sounds, I'm not meaning this in any petty kind of way, but he replaced every single person with his buddies, and they were all University of Kentucky representatives. They fired Patino. They fired Jurich, which brings me to another name that I think should be on their list that I know is interested, Richard Patino Jr. I would rather have him than Mick Cronin. And I'm not one of these guys. I'm not one of these guys that want Patino to come. I appreciate everything Rick did. He was my superior when I did my work with the University of Louisville basketball program. Was always nice to me. He was always very, very strict. I believe him to this day, and we could talk about that another time about his ousting, that he didn't know anything about the stuff. I remember going on at Minardi only because of this. He kept really good. I really feel like he had the rooms wiretapped at points, because there was this one time, and I'll tell this quick story and I'll let you ask your next question. I know I get going. Can you believe somebody on YouTube commented on our podcast the other day? The guy up in the top left-hand corner won't let anybody else talk. I thought that was a rude comment, even though it was true.
It is
but
true.
That was the day that me, Terrence Farley, Edgar Sosa, and Jerry Smith were playing video games in Farley's room. We were playing on the PlayStation, and Edgar and Jerry were kind of roughhousing, and they accidentally broke one of the chairs in there. 5 seconds later, the room phone rang. It was Coach Vince Taylor. And he says, I picked it up. I said, hello, Farley's room. Tell them they're going to have to pay for that chair. How'd they know that? Like, hand to God, that happened. That actually happened. So I loved Rick, but here's the thing. I don't want him back because of I'd love to have him back in some capacity one day. But you bring him back, or bring his son back, and everybody's going to be like, oh, all the Patino worshipers got what they wanted. And then there's going to be a natural divide there. At least with a new guy, you start off fresh. That should appease both the MAC, the Crumb, and the fan supporters, all three together.
Jeremy, I want to ask you this because you had mentioned it. It's kind of a game in a sense. I'm going to list you a few names of some of the coaches that I've wrote down, seen mentioned, or seen people talk about. And I want you to, you can tell me, you can do little bits of talking, like if you think it's possible, if you think it's not possible, if you think it's stupid, if you'd like.
I'll give you a couple word answers, because I know I've been long-winded with my other ones, and I'm free to stay on here with the rest of the show with y'all if y'all want to pick my brain or just have a good time. That's fine. But I'll make it short and sweet for this part.
Okay. I have 9 of them. I'll kind of start from the bottom and go to the top. One of them is Eric Musselman. He coaches in the SEC at Arkansas. Do you have any thoughts on him?
No, thank you. Next.
Craig McDermott from Creighton.
No. He's a better version of Mac's style of play. He plays too slow for Louisville.
Yeah. He's just not to. I know I said I was going to give short answers, but here's what I will say. We don't want the hot name in the NCAA tournament. We don't want the next up. That's why I'm very, very iffy on Dusty May anyway, but I take him 25 times out of 10 over Mick Cronin. We need a guy that is established. We need a guy that is going to bring excitement. Again, why Bruce Pearl, Buzz Williams, Scott Drew, even Shaka Smart, even though he's not even there's no interest there. He wants to. He loves where he's at. He's close to his hometown, or his wife hometown one. So there's no interest. But yeah, I don't want a mid-major coach. I don't want somebody that's almost on the cusp. I want a guy that has shown in some way or somehow he knows what he's doing.
Okay. Well, this was more of a younger coach, but he's made some noise these recent years. I got Nate Oates from Alabama.
I guess I guess Nate Oates would be one of the next names on my list. My only worry with Nate Oates is that traditionally the SEC is not a great basketball league. It's normally Kentucky and a bunch of other dudes. Now, to their credit, again, over the last 6-7 years, there's been a formidable number 2 in Auburn. Alabama's had a couple of good years. Tennessee, Florida. So it's been a better basketball league over the last 6 years than it was prior. But so my only worry is Nate Oates only doing good because the SEC could be perceived as being a down conference? I don't know, but he checks off the boxes. We have contacted him. I just haven't heard it since we talked with him. Haven't heard anything. I haven't heard his name on one single other person's list.
Okay. Another one, Chris Beard from Ole Miss. A lot of other coaching experiences, but he's at Ole Miss right now. Chris Beard.
Yeah, he's got a whole bunch of other experiences, including a lead draft sheet. Listen, here's my thing with that, Joe, and this is what I've told Louisville fans because they really want Chris Beard because he can win. And at the end of the day, the majority of your fans don't care about the personal issues; they just want to win. But here's my. I'm glad you asked me about him because I really dislike him because here's how I look at it. Oh, he was exonerated. No. The lady took back her statement. Okay, so either he whooped that woman's behind and he's an issue, or that lady lied about him whooping her behind and she's the issue. He's still with her. So one of them are going to be an issue. And if we are eliminating red flags and issues, you can't take, let's just say he didn't really do it. Well, then he's with a crazy person and she can be the red flag just as well as he can be the red flag. So no, there's not 1% of me that I wouldn't care if you told me, Jeremy, you can either have Chris Beard or Joseph Decker to be the next head coach of the University of Louisville. I would say Joseph Decker 10 out of 10 times, as long as he checked the ads he was tweeting out.
I have Cronin, Dusty May, Will Wade, and Scott Drew. You've talked on all of them.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, I want to ask this. You think when it's all said and done, who do you think will be the next Louisville head coach?
Oh, man, that's a great – and here's what I'll say. The next 7 days is going to be paramount. There's going to be a lot of information coming out, especially with the tournament don't start till Wednesday. Thankfully, I guess you could look at it either way. Only 2 of our targets made the tournament. Tang didn't make the tournament. Cronin didn't make the tournament. Shirts, oh God, he didn't make the tournament. Drew and May were the only 2 that made the tournament. So hopefully we get a lot of conversations done the next 3 or 4 days. I think we're going to have more. We'll have a better idea. Again, if you'd like to follow us, it's at Card Sport Zone. Normally people put graphics up for their shows, but y'all are newbies, so I guess I'll do it myself. It's at Card Sport Zone on Twitter, Cardinal Sport Zone at Cardinal Sport Zone 55 on YouTube. Wednesday night 7 p.m. There you go. Well, that's Jonathan. You should have Joseph put my information down there, Joseph. Wednesday night, 7 p.m. This last week, we had a phenomenal show, of course. And yes, I'm going to do a little self-advertising. Get over it. We had our recruiting guru Dalton Pence join us. That was the planned show. Within 5 minutes, Dom Yates. He used to be a sports broadcaster down there. I know he was in Bowling Green. I want to say it was WBKO he worked for. I could be incorrect. Then within about 20 minutes, Asad Ali, he is the senior videographer for the baseball team here at Louisville and son of the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali. He was like, if you want to break up the basketball talk, let's talk a little baseball. I said, absolutely. And then we talked about baseball. We talked about his father's induction into the WWE Hall of Fame. It was a great time. Then we had recruiting. He thinks he's a recruiting expert. He's a buddy of mine. A lot of people don't like him. A lot of people do. Brandon Bender, he's been in the recruiting game behind the scenes. He still kind of gets players from overseas to the States. He hopped on, and then at the end of the show, my boss, Dan Furman from the 502 Circle, was like, hey, y'all still on? And 2.5 hours later, we were barely still on. And we had him on to talk a lot. So this Wednesday, we normally don't have guests on Live with 55, but this week we'll have some more information for y'all. 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. We'll keep y'all up to date, and then hopefully. So here's the thing, Joseph. If by our Sunday show, 2 p.m. same place, if we haven't heard anything about Scott Drew, that means there is a great chance of Scott Drew coming to Louisville. But if he's been rolled out by Sunday, obviously it's a wrap. I really feel like 7 days is that timeline to start eliminating people off that list. And I just have a sinking, sick feeling at the end of the day. And obviously, if this happens, I'm going to have to do a little bit of butt kissing. It is what it is. If you had twisted my arm and made me pick, I'm going to say that Mick Cronin will be named. If Scott Drew is not named the head coach at Louisville, I think it's going to be Mick Cronin. But my official final 3 list right now: Scott Drew, Dusty May, Mick Cronin. And there may be a surprise. They've been rumors on the message boards, which, by the way, toxic. I hate them. I don't subscribe to them because they're going to say negative stuff on. I found out after the show today there was a whole thread about how people hated me because I was so positive about Louisville. Love it. But those are people that live in their basement, and they probably have a cousin they also call their dad. So I don't really worry about this kind of stuff. But yeah, that's who that's my final 3. It's going to be one of those 3 guys, unless that special secret candidate, which a lot of people are speculating it's Billy Donovan. I would take Billy Donovan over all 3 of those any day of the week.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
me too. Well, Jeremy, man, we appreciate you being on. For the record, who do you have in your final 4? And we'll end with that.
Jonathan, I'll be honest with you, only because you're because I'm always honest. I've not even looked at. Let me skim for a second.
No, it's okay. That's okay, because that could turn into a 20-minute conversation on you.
I'm going to say, listen, I can read though really quickly. I'm going to say, for the heck of it, I'm going to say Arizona over Baylor in that final. I'm going to say UConn makes its 2nd consecutive trip. Let's go 1, 2, 3. Who's the 3 seed there? I'm gonna go Kansas in that one. And where's the final one? Houston. Oh, gosh, man, I see a Marquette, Kentucky. No, they can't play in the final, can they?
No, they play in the regional final.
4-2 versus 3. So
we're in the Sweet 16.
Duke. Gosh, what a great Duke, Kentucky. I'm going Marquette. That's going to be my sleeper, even though they're a 2 seed. They are, and that depends. I know they lost one of their better players over the weekend. That is contingent. If they get that guy back, I feel like we'll see them in the Final 4. If they don't get them back, it's going to be Duke or Kentucky from that region.
I do want to shout out Joseph Woman, who has been texting me during the broadcast. I call him Joseph or Joey. He goes by Joe, I think, in the bill. But appreciate him tuning in. And Jeremy, we appreciate you being here, sharing what you know with us. It's a story that everybody in the State's following, whether they're really avid fans or not. It's just there's been so much disarray, and I think everybody's hopeful that they can get it right this time. I do want to throw out a couple things. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I was going to say absolutely, and shout out to Joey. Look, he not only was he – Jonathan, you kind of know everything that was going on with my health situation last year. He was by my side while my wife was out of town working, and you were there too. But he was my rock during all of that. And yesterday, man, I got my garage door broke, and I know that y'all probably don't care about this, but he probably loves the love and the shout out, so I'm gonna give it to him. But I couldn't get my garage door to open. Normally, I'm the guy. Anybody here in Louisville that's my friend or my family, when they need something, they know Jeremy has a guy that could do this or that. I was completely distraught. I'm about to go pick up my new car on Tuesday, and I'm like, what am I going to do? It's going to cost so much to fix it. Joey actually had a guy that fixed garages come over, done like that, and it was so. Shout out to Joey. He's been clutch the last year, man.
Oh yeah.
A lot of the times, I mean, he's been my sidekick and my best friend. I've been lucky enough to have I know sisters are special too, and I've got a lot of cousins I consider sisters. So I don't want to make it sound like I've never had a sister, but I was lucky enough to grow up with a brother that at the beginning I fought people because they were picking on him, and then here at the end he can fight people that are picking on me. So it's been it's been a complete circle here. So
well, I hope it's not the end, but I appreciate you giving Joey the shout out he deserves. I do want to share,
man.
Yeah, I do want to share again that we are being brought to you today with a show sponsor of Morris Promo Design Tees. I'm really excited about their partnership with Joseph. The Morris Promo division offers any type of promotional product items that can be logoed, pins, bags, drinkware, paper products, trade show setups, business cards, etc. And then their design tee business that Joseph has just agreed in principle to a deal with them. And he will be opening up a store shortly with some of his designs. They do custom apparel, hats, direct garment printing, embroidery, direct to film and screen printing, online stores, and much more. Technology sponsors are Braden's Blessings and Lake Forest Recruiting. Text line sponsor, Kevin Alexander, the EC clerk. Didn't give that as much action today as we thought we would because our guests were really good at answering questions, and I appreciate them. And then our guests were brought to us by CNA Plumbing and Rafferty's. Mr. Scott Lindsay and Adam Coates are both Edmonson County supporters, athletic supporters, and we appreciate everyone that's contributed to making our show come to life and be possible. I want to thank Joseph.
Jonathan, I didn't get my check yet. I mean, normally they pay you before you come on. I didn't get a Venmo, Cash App, a Zelle.
We wanted to make sure you showed up, so we'll release that after the show.
Okay, cool. Also, can I say one last thing? I know I've talked the whole night. If you're a wrestling fan, follow at Ringside Podcast. We interview AEW, WWE, OVW, all those. You got to let your guests get all their stuff in so they feel like there's a reason to come back. Now I have 2 reasons.
What's the second one?
Well, love for the family. I would have done this for everybody else. I've spent so much unpaid time with you. It's ridiculous.
I appreciate that. Joseph, I appreciate him coming to me that one break and saying, let's do this. It's been fun up to this point, going to keep rolling. And the young man's got a lot of talent. I believe he's going to make a career out of it. And Joseph, I want us to wait and share this with you live. I've got someone that has told me that when we can work out the date and time, they're going to help us get Coach Lutz at Western Kentucky on. So I'm going to work on that. I would love to try to do it before the game. I think they play Thursday or Friday.
I think it's Thursday.
If they do, as Jeremy has encouraged us, we'll just have another show. It doesn't have to be on Sunday night. If we have somebody that's good content, we'll just announce a show, have it, and then folks can come back and watch it later. And that's something I think is really important.
Listen, make sure. Joseph, be quiet. Listen, make sure if you're following the Wildcat Alley, keep your notifications on for Twitter. This is starting off really strong. They're going to blow up, and then you're going to wish you were following them. YouTube, subscribe to them on YouTube. So anytime they go live, it don't have to be Sunday nights. It could be Joseph could get up for a midnight snack on Tuesday and be like, man, I really want to tell everybody about my midnight snack. Let's go. You'll get the notification on YouTube. You'll get it on Facebook. And if you follow them on Twitter and subscribe to their tweets, you'll get it that way too. They have got this is a great concept. I was more than happy to help them out with this. And I know this is going to be a big deal. So let's keep it going. Like you said, make sure they can go any day they want to. Get an idea in the middle of the week, go live, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss 1 second of the action.
Joseph, last word. Jeremy, thanks for coming on.
Continue to be in the mix. Watch the tournament unfold this week for both high school and college. With the chance of us going live again in the middle of the week, make sure, like Jeremy said, to turn on notifications and be there for that episode. Thank you for everyone tuning in and watching, and shout out to our great sponsors.
Good night, folks.